Hi, I'm Bill Patton with 720 Coaching, and it's my pleasure to have on the show the amazing Emma Doyle, who is, wow, she's got the girl power, the lady power, the woman power. And so, Emma, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Yeah, doing great, thanks. I was just even this morning reflecting on when I landed in America about 7 or 8 years ago. I was on your radio show. One of the first memories I have of literally landed in LA, and I think Bill Riddle, he said, "Listen, this guy's got a radio show. You should just jump on." So you and one of the first experiences I had being in America here with you.
That's shocking to me. I'm flabbergasted. I don't know if we can continue the interview now. That's amazing. So, and thank you, Bill Riddle. And hey, Bill Riddle's looking pretty darn good these days.
Isn't he? Isn't he? Go Bill.
Yeah. Go Bill. All right. So, wow. I just have to soak that in for a second. All right.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's over now. Moving on. So, our main topic, our main overarching theme here is leadership and community, and then we're going to talk about some of the things, some of the initiatives that you're doing. But let's do. How would you introduce a conversation on where we need to be in leadership in any kind of crisis? I mean, we're currently in a situation, but different crises will come up. So, let's make it more general. So, what do leaders look like when they're building community during crisis time?
I love the really simple line, follow before you lead. And that to me summarizes what great leadership is. And, I think it was that great quote by Gandhi, "There go my people, I must follow them for I am their leader." And I think as coaches, one of my favorite questions to ask all coaches is in 1 to a maximum of 3 words, what makes a great coach? And this came about when I had the opportunity to ask Roger Federer this question. And since then, in the top 3 answers of at least 500 responses over the last couple of years, listening comes up repeatedly. And I think when we really listen to what's going on, to our staff, to our team, what their biggest problems and challenges are, and then we take that information and help bridge that gap between present state and desired state. That's definitely within my coaching philosophy, is this future-based thinking, rather than always reflecting on what's gone wrong. Stay in that present moment of the problems and the challenges, but never down for more than whatever you need that to be, whether it be half a day, 10 minutes, 10 seconds. And then where do we want to go and how do we help bridge the gap? And as a leader, I really believe you can't focus on that until you've really listened to your people.
Okay. What does listening require? What do you have to do in order to listen?
Well, you have to really ask clarifying questions and repeat their language back to them. So my favorite line is, "So what I'm hearing is," and you're taking 1 or 2 key words that was important to them. And it's okay if you get it wrong, because our map of the world is different to the person next to us, is different to the person next to them. And so reflecting it back in how you understood what they said, you may get it wrong the first time. And so just keep peeling it back. Like the whole onion concept, as humans, we all have layers upon layers upon layers. And don't forget, sometimes your staff or your team, they might not even know how to articulate what they're feeling themselves. As coaches, how often, do we ask questions of our players? How is the match? Good. And that's it, or maybe it wasn't good. So it's being able to read the subconscious cues that really fascinates me, because obviously sometimes the surface structure, the speech, is actually not the reality. So it's our ability as coaches to be able to and as leaders to be able to listen to me is not just about the sentence structure and the words. It's about, is the body reflecting what somebody's saying?
Right. Is there
How,
more behind this communication than what's being said? And, you know,
yeah,
sometimes you're up against displaced anger,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, and stuff like that.
definitely.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
going to throw something at you and I want you to, let's see if you want to work with it or not. But, you know, I heard this thing: stop, look and listen, decide, act, repeat.
yeah. I think that's a very similar process to what I was just saying.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when you talk about what listening really is, I mean that ability to actively listen, you have to stop what you're doing, even if your mobile phone's in your pocket. You know, I mean, the greatest bear bug of
Yeah.
any coach is that little notification button in the corner,
Yeah.
and you see, and you can't help yourself. Even though you're having a conversation with someone else, you feel your phone's vibrated in your pocket, and you're already thinking about what time's your next appointment, and you've lost. That ability to truly listen in that moment. So I love, you know, I pick up on that word that you first said, which was stop. Really liked that. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So now, you know, in using that to build community, what are some of the activities that do that, that bring people together and help, you know, create something that can weather some adversity?
I go straight to values and maybe tie that in with a cool story, if I may, about the Australian Junior Fed Cup
I
team that
want lots of stories. You can tell as many stories for as long as you want.
It's just a cool little story, 2018, because I hadn't taken a team away in so long. I used to do a lot of Australian junior teams frequently. And so, you know, having taken, this is 10 years later now in 2018 that I've got my first team again. And a lot had changed in the way that these teenagers communicate and just the way the world had moved. And so where did we begin? With values. So I think, what does community really mean? It comes back to values. What do we value as a group? And that's not just the coach or the leader saying, hey, you know what, we should value integrity. And, you know, and then why don't you just jump on board with me and I'll show you what integrity is. I mean, that kind of leadership doesn't work anymore. So what we did is we got a bunch of values cards, really fun, multicolored, and we had the players and the support staff and the coach. So the team, the whole team, everyone in the team, pick their top 3 values in the context of that time in Malaysia. And yes, and then make a cool little acronym out of it. So we were the Incredible Raging Elephants, which stood for improvement, respect, and enjoyment. And then I had the players create the guidelines for that tour. So what does improvement mean? And then obviously I did ask strategic questions as a coach, like, are we going to have our mobile phones with us at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or do we want to have conversation and connect with each other? Do we want to warm up to music? Okay, well, what music does that look like for enjoyment for you? And, you know, we're there with that song, Pray For Us, the rap song, and all the other countries looking over wondering why Australia's having so much fun. We did end up holding a couple of match points and ended up winning Asia Oceania and went to Budapest for the final. So, there for me, those values.
I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember seeing that. Yeah, that's awesome.
They carried on, but that brings me back to community and what do we value as a community, as a group. And at the moment, I think coming back to those basics of what's important, of why we coach, because, a lot of people, if you ask them why they coach, financially is in it's in the top 3 reasons why someone coaches. And at the moment, that's not really an option for a lot of people in our industry, income. So it's going deeper into why do we actually coach and what do we value about the essence of coaching, to make sure that we're in the right place. Because if you really do love it, which most of us do, once you strip back again all the layers on the onion, you'll find at the core, is the heart and the passion to make an impact to the person that's in front of you. I think,
yeah, and I've been making the point lately that right now, all the investment that we've been putting into people is now hopefully paying off. And, unfortunately, some people have been a little too materialistically focused on just simply, people's technique and not really engaging the person. And unfortunately, those people are probably going to be suffering more than the others. So, I think there's an opportunity for people who've been a little too focused on the material world to now, get some better perspective. So what's a good first step? Like, let's say somebody's just having their epiphany and they just realize, oh yeah, my focus has been on the wrong stuff for too long. What's a good first step to, make that shift?
Yeah, great question. I was having a mentoring session this morning, actually, and that's exactly what we did. As in, she's now off court, and she did a 1 week of sort of checking in with her players, and she said, right, well, I've done that now for a week, via video, and now where do I begin? And of course, I thought, okay, well, great coaching question. Where would we begin on court? And through mentoring and my own philosophy, having maybe an impact on her, she straight away went, yeah, okay, well, when we write training blocks, we start with the tactics. We're a tactically driven sport, right? So it's not the person with the prettiest technique. And it just does amaze me when we do remove the tennis court, as in literally physically, because we're forced to remove the tennis court. There's still so much we can do and learn with our players. We don't always need that racket in that hand to be physically on the court. And you start with, so you start there. And so what are the tactics that then drive what's the physicality that's associated with that? And then what's the associated mindset skills? So let's say for a minute we just remove technique, not saying you have to, because there's lots of great software out there to do that, analyze what's exactly happening at different parts with the body. But when we did that, as an example, we started with tactics. Okay, well, consistency, great place to start. Let's keep doing some research on the longest ever rally, male, female. Let's look at the average number of hits cross court before they go down the line. Let's look at all those tactical objectives. And then we this morning created, from A to Z, a physical program that's related. Okay, what's related to consistency? E, endurance. Okay, great. So let's create some endurance activities that they could do in their home or in their backyard. So the tactical. Then we did the movement piece, and then what's the associated mind skill with consistency, and of course resilience. So it all links, and then we did some visualizations around that. So that was a cool, just a mentoring session that I had this morning with Neely, who's doing a fantastic job out at Washington. So that's great.
And I appreciate that real world example, because this is what we need right now. We need real world. So now, are you familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we get a little Maslow now, and we're meeting our people in their time of need, what kind of support do we give?
Yeah, a great question. The best place to start is with certainty. So we can only control what we can control. So as that information comes to us, I think sharing that is really important. Certainty is, for me, the number one, the first human need with regards to just checking in, connecting, whether that be picking up the phone, whatever that might be, but that is a great place to start. And just letting people know exactly what you're doing, whether that be, right, this week is just a phone call check-in, and that, right, next week's going to be all about consistency. I mean, why not still add your training blocks in with absolute certainty? So that is 100% in terms of human needs. And then the other one that I think is critical at this stage, which we do a lot in our girl power camps, is this sense of belonging. So, I think it's such a critical human need. People want to belong, and if they're having to physically again be removed, how can we create a sense of belonging, which is again comes back to community, so these people still feel that, and how can you get creative in how you do that?
And I want to comment on that, because I like
Please.
that a lot. And I think a lot of coaches can relate to the fact that especially when they're coaching kids, they feel like those are my kids. It's a familial, you're almost like an extra dad or mom. And if somebody ever tried to do something to your kids, then you would go all out to protect them, And with our adults, we might not say they're our kids, but there's still this nurturing thing about it. They could be 75 years old, but we're still coaching them, and we have this, we have this power over them, so to speak. I mean, that maybe that's too highfalutin, but anyway, so let's make a shift. Let's go into, the things that you're doing, your active things that you created here. So tell us about the ACE Coach Education Membership site. What's that all about?
Yeah, look, honestly, it's this current situation has forced my hand finally in a really positive way. And that is, I've been filming activities, honestly, for the last 5 or 6 years and never done anything with them. They've just been sitting on these USBs, and some I've had them, film professionally, with great sound, great audio. Some are just on my phone, and I've been, really filming them for a rainy day, so to speak. Well, one day I'm going to actually do something with these videos. And that day came about where over a 6-day period, every single one of my next 6 months speaking gigs just got cancelled. And, so when you're not busy speaking and doing your thing, it's like, okay, well, now this is forcing my hand to actually put all these ideas somewhere. And fortunately, thanks to my fantastic US sponsor, which is On Court, Off Court, they have a Kajabi platform, which is an online learning site, which is very easy to use, because if I can work it out, trust me, anyone can work it out. And I've really have taught myself just trial and error, and I've uploaded all these videos. And I'm really excited to be housing it all in one place. So www.acecoach.com.au on the end there for Australia.
Okay, so all right, so give us a couple of ideas. Yeah. Give us a range of what kinds of different things are on there. So
yeah, great.
Try to hit some different categories.
Yeah, sure. So lots of youth under 10. So lots of a blue stage, 2 to 5, fundamental conceptual motor skill programs. There is then the stages, red, orange, green. I go through keywords or sticky language, what we can say. Now, again, it's not one size fits all, but a lot of people, this site is really to help people with some cues that they could use. So, for example, at Orange Ball, it's over the bridge, step under the bridge. Really simple cues, and I do that with demonstrations, and then support skills, and then of course, tactical games. And I'm all about creative, out of the box sort of thinking games. We've got Halloween in there, and the Grand Prix, and the Christmas tree game, and all sorts of little things that just take tennis. I still love tennis concepts like Wimbledon match point, etc. But also, how do we use themes and activities that kids are into to dress up tennis? How to be light and quick on your toes. There's one there on how to run successful beginner adult lessons, how to create time and space. And then there's a whole series of activities for parents, again, through all the ball colours, what they can do at home to practice support the weekly lesson. I'm a huge fan of that. So that's a whole series, again, that goes blue, red, orange, green. And of course, how to run girl power camps. So if you're interested in how we can do a better job of the subtle gender differences and communication styles, then we've got that whole course. And then the 2 other courses that are not.
Wait, yeah, let's dig into that for a second.
Okay.
So I want to go backwards because I have a comment, and then let's dig a little bit more into training boys and girls differently. All right. So the first thing is, you said out of the box, right? And I think that's a really interesting thing, because I don't even know where the box is or how people got into it in the first place, right? But if you're in the box, just step out, right? Step out. And, Emma's here to help you find your way out of the box, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now Now, so let's dig into that a little bit, because I think this is one of my favorite topics. Is, what are the issues of men coaching girls, especially, and women coaching boys, and then what are the differences in coaching boys and girls? Because there's a kind of a continuum. I think the mistake people make sometimes is they assume that all girls think alike and that all boys think alike, and some boys are a little bit more somewhere further along the feminine continuum, and some girls are a bit more masculine than the others. So okay, so now that I threw a big murky thing at you, reconcile.
Well, first of all, picking up on your first comment, is I always say when I do a workshop or presentation to coaches, you don't have to agree with anything I say. You just have to be super curious. And if we're open and we're curious, I think that then we come from a place of understanding different people's ideas. Then we can add what we like into our own coaching toolkit. And you don't have to take all of it on board. But if you just take one or two things, I think then we've all done our job, as you mentioned earlier. Saying that around we were talking about books and writing off air, but back to subtle gender differences. It's another beautiful line that I love. I'm 100% in agreement that that's a continuum. I think there's more. I actually think there's more differences within the genders than between the genders. So I love that line as well to help us put this in perspective. And of course, when we're looking at 10 and under children. Look, I've done, don't get me wrong, for me to even create a product on how to run a girl power camp, it's because I ran a boys survivor camp, right? And they're just names, but I just threw out different activities, looking at what they really liked. And within 10 and under, I had the kids rate the activities, which ones they like better. And there's hardly any differences in 10 and under tennis. There's not a lot of, huge, like girls, you've got to teach them this way. But you do start to see little subtleties. And one of the biggest ones, again, comes back to belonging, comes back to doing things as a team, competing for the team, understanding the why, and showing that you care. So there's just 5 quick tips on the preference that I see with the girls, and how to subtly coach them differently. So you're still embedding competitive skills. You're still helping them love the battle of competition. You're helping them enjoy the struggle. But you might just do it in a team-based versus, one of the survivor games is the ball never dies, and it's all about being aggressive. And we want the girls to be aggressive as well. So we can still play that game, but maybe then those points are going towards their team and having lots of mini matches. All of a sudden I'm playing you, then I'm playing you, then I'm playing you. So how you dress it up and is what I call the subtleties that you're putting on the outside. And another quote that I love that's really embedded is that boys need to play well to feel like they belong. Girls need to feel like they belong before they can play well. And
I think it's a really good general statement. And it's funny, I took that and I ran it past some of my girls, and it was interesting how there was a consensus that there was some truth to that. And then I got some girls who went, no, not me. So,
yeah,
but
exactly.
But that's a great thing. It's a great guideline to start.
Exactly.
It's a jumping off place to have a conversation,
yeah.
and say, hey, to what degree does feeling like you belong affect your performance, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's really interesting in coaching girls. I've had some girls who really want me to be close to their match and watching them and engaged, and others, they play better the further away I am. For whatever reason, so now
well, that's coaching, isn't it? The art and subtle. When we say what, at exactly what point, is coaching and the art of coaching. And that's for us to decide based on how well do we know the person in front of us. And the more skilled we are in understanding people, or people management, as another mentor of mine called it, the better coach that we can be, and that's obviously tailoring to every single individual that's in front of you.
Yeah. Another thing, Dr. Cheryl McLaughlin put together a great presentation on male coaches coaching female athletes, especially. And one of the key points was that it's a great practice to make sure you greet every girl by name as they show up, and to acknowledge them. Whereas in general, boys are going to come in a little more caveman. It's like, hey, get to work. Okay. Yes, coach. But, hi, Melinda, how are you? Right. And then really attending to, the look on their face and seeing, what's up. I don't know how many times, coaching a girls' tennis team, I noticed somebody looks upset today. It looks like there's a little heated conversation going on there as they're coming in. Blythe, is everything okay? So.
Could I just say on that?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to jump in the space there just to say that I think in today's day and age, it's equally as important that we give boys the platform to talk, and making sure that they feel safe to have a conversation, because it's so easy, because boys could have that same situation in their day, but they're never used to having an environment where they're encouraged to talk about it. And unfortunately, what we're seeing, males in their 20s is devastating. I don't know, I just feel that the more that we can not fall into these traps of using girls' names and asking them how they are today, if we can do that with boys as well, then we're also helping change the dial slightly. And that's just...
Well, that is a great comment. And so, that's perfect, because it shows that what I said was an overgeneralization. And so yeah, I was presenting it as a generalization, and I do, I do engage with the boys on that other level that you're talking about. If I notice something, so I do attend to everybody.
Yeah.
And and there's, it's an interesting thing about the willingness to be vulnerable as well. And girls are better at that than boys, and boys can sometimes learn that. I don't know. I mean, I've had boys who've lost disappointing matches that they felt they took on the full responsibility of losing it for the team they felt, and they cried bitter tears, and I had to just stand there with my hand, on the shoulder, just a moment of comfort to say, I know how you feel. Doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
You'll get past it. So, I wouldn't want what I said to be interpreted as being, a black and white thing. So but in general, these things are sort of generally true. So anyway, should we go a little deeper into how to run a girl power camp?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. Engage, develop, empower. They're the secret sources behind the camp. And engage is all about how do we do that. We begin off court, for example. We're making vision boards. We're cutting pictures out of magazines. We're looking at things that empower us, inspire us. We're doing a string tension of life. We're looking at a holistic view of not just, how's your forehand, how's your backhand. We're looking at how's your organization, how's your fitness, how's your self-image, how's your self-esteem, and just getting them to do, just a bit of a reflective piece. And then develop, we still have quite a serious theme that's around either we have game styles, we have momentum. And so they're actually learning about concepts and really understanding the why behind those concepts. And then the empower is all about the language, how we help them with their inner voice and how they can do a better job of talking to themselves. And we lead by example with female role models, as well as I'm huge with, male champions of change who, if you are going to run a girl power camp, yeah, great. Let's have 3 male coaches. Let's have 3 female coaches. Or if you've only got 1 on staff, then let's get 2 of your senior players in to level the balance of role models. And they're the secret sources. And of course, within everything is athletic development, and always using fitness as an empowerment piece for them to feel good and healthy and strong, and never using fitness as a punishment.
Yeah.
That's a very quick overview, but some of the secret sources that are within the How to Run a Girl Power Camp. So really, I've been doing it now for 3 or 4 years, and we've hit 21 countries and impacted over 1,000 players and coaches. So those numbers are way too low. So that's why now it's an online course. Hopefully.
Well, that's amazing. That's amazing. And if we can go back to boxes for a second. So to some extent, we want to try to free the girls from the concept of the pretty little boxes. One thing that I've been against, especially in male coaching circles, is the objectification of women. And, I've really been furious with some facilitators who allowed the posting of scantily clad women on professional tennis coaching sites. So do you want to touch on that at all?
Just in saying that the essence of our sport, of course, which is the facial expression when you're about to rip a forehand, I think is equally as attractive as other photos. And I would just also invite and encourage especially teams. I went into a very famous university very recently, and on one side of the wall is all the pictures of the guys who are showing to be gritty and showing their stretch and their come on, and all the girls were, the photos look fake. It didn't even look like they were hitting the ball. So again, not their fault. And maybe again, it's not pointing the finger. It's no judgment. But I wonder if we could all just do a better job in how, we want to portray the essence of the sport. Because at the end of the day, as coaches, we are in service to the sport, this great sport of tennis, and to help everyone fall in love with it. The images are the game. So
but then it kind of comes back to listening, because what if that's what those girls want? What if they want a glamour shot? So what are you going to do, right?
Well, that's what I mean. Just have a spread. As a team, you as the leader, you don't want to show one way, you don't want to show the other way. That's your job to find the balance based on the different. Usually, you'll have enough personalities in there to really follow before you lead.
All right, so should we get into the presentation blueprint?
Yeah, really.
Boost your speaking confidence. I'm speaking and you will listen. All right, so.
Well, the complete opposite, actually.
But I don't think you.
Yeah, because the 9th module, actually, it's funny, let's start there, is actually you, the presenter. So you're the least most important person if you're in service to the audience, yet you're the most important person to bring everyone, engage everybody. So that's why it's module 9. It's kind of like the icing on the cake at the end to say, yeah, you know what, if one of the areas how I help coaches is, rather than making it, my favorite drill is, all of a sudden you just flip that and you say, here's what the players really love about this activity. So just a subtle shift in the same sentence, highlight that you're in service to your audience. You're there to serve them. That's why you're a speaker. And how do you do that within your own natural style? So it's made up of preparation. So we do a really cool model in how to unpack your intellectual property into an elegant format to help you structure your content. Then it's all about relationships. How do you pace and lead the audience? And then finally, the courage is the top part of the model. And that's all about you. So that's about how you dress, your image that you portray, right through to the matrix background. And the poise, you having emotional flexibility in the moment when things don't go well, when your technology doesn't work, etc. And just you know, a lot of people obviously have great anxiety around.
Okay, let's get into. I want to get into that for a second. Okay, so there's what looks like it's not going well, but it's really great. It doesn't look like it's going well. I don't know how many times I've heard people say, I felt like I gave a horrible presentation, and then the people who heard it thought it was great. And then the other happens, you know, the speaker feels like they nailed it, and then everybody yawns and can't wait to get out of there, or the conversations all start in the back because nobody's engaged, right? But so I'm going to throw a little story at you, and I think this is one of my favorite moments. I was in Southern Cal and I was speaking, and I was throwing in some athlete-centered coaching tidbits along with the thing on visual training for tennis. And so this 26-year-old pro, with kind of a confrontational tone, was, you know, giving me sort of some pushback on one of my ideas. And so I'm sitting there, I'm collecting myself, and I wasn't a fan of the tone that he used, but I was like, okay, focus on the content of the question here, you know, listen to him right now. So then we ended up actually having like a back and forth that was mildly argumentative, right? And so that was over, and I appreciated that, because if he's thinking those questions and he's pushing back on that, there have to be other people who are thinking the same. So he did a service to the talk by pushing back and giving me a chance to clarify some things that could have been misunderstood. But here's the weird thing. Afterwards, some veteran coaches came to me and said, hey, way to put that young guy in his place. And I went, no, I didn't put him in his place. I tried to really focus on what he was saying and answer clearly for the sake of everybody. So I appreciate him. In fact, I'm going to go talk to him next. But I thought it was a really, in this, it was very telling about what the older generation does to the younger generation. And there's nothing new under the sun. So do you want to dig into that one a little bit?
Yeah, the number one word that comes to mind is assumptions. We make assumptions because of our map of the world. We delete, generalize, and distort, which of course is a neuro-linguistic programming meta model of how we process information. So as a speaker, your anxiety could be so high that when someone even asks a question, you don't hear it, or you take it and you think, you take one thing about what they said and you automatically answer it in a different way that has nothing to do with the question. Or, we've all got different maps of the world. So, kudos to you. And in Presentation Blueprint, we talk about when somebody is trying to hijack your presentation, which happens very, very frequently. There are techniques and ways to be able to do that. But I think being able to clarify, listen to the content, great advice, and reflect back if you're not unsure. And then the only thing I would say within the course is you want to sort of put a time cap on that rather than back and forward with that one person. And it's always, the go-to line, of course, is, I really value your question, and we don't have enough time for me to explore that answer right now, but, would you meet me for a coffee at the lunch break, or etc. And you take that conversation where it needs to go if that's the depth of the question. So I think that's a quick tip around that, but be careful with assumptions. Hear something and we assume that they're having a go at us, or we assume that they're totally disagreeing with everything we're saying. And yes, that takes years of practice, but there are techniques around that. And if people do want to make a comment, I'll often say, does anyone like to comment? I've got 30 seconds if anyone would like to make a comment on this activity. We're just tapping it. Or I'm going to take 2 questions regarding this and then moving on. Otherwise it really you've got to be careful that you don't lose your own structure. within that. And that's why, in Presentation Blueprint, I always say, if you've got a 30-minute time slot, then you should really prepare a 22-minute talk.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Sleep,
And
so.
I would throw this out there too, that this time that we're in right now presents an opportunity for you to speak to your camera or to your Facebook Live,
yeah,
and just get out there and create a presentation and put it out there.
Yeah,
and then ask for
I
some
just saw the
feedback.
model. That's the Presentation Blueprint model for the course online. So it goes through those 9 modules there around preparation, relationships, and courage. So
all right, great. So if someone contacted you, would you send that to them?
Yeah, the model.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've got a free. It's called the PALM technique. So if you just wanted to get going straight away, it's the PALM is all pump up the region. It's all about your A is audience, L love topic, and M is mix the audience. So if you're doing something online, that's maybe running a survey or really inviting feedback and working with your audience rather than just talking at them or just making it one way, even with video and online content. So I've got that. That's my free gift to promote that course. I'd be more than happy to share the PALM technique.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Anything more on presentation skills, blueprint stuff?
I think as coaches, number one, we don't think we've, everyone's already done it, or, because definitely in today's day and age, it's very hard to come up with a brand new idea. So it doesn't need to be brand new. You just have to be passionate about it. So that's one thing I'd say just on, if you do want to be a presenter, and I would certainly, I think diversity and the more speakers we have, the better. So this is a way to help people to have that courage to take that next step and do it in a way where it's true to their personality, but really, ticks off on, at least it has a statistic, it has a story, and it has a model of the 3 key things that you believe in. So if you're ever going to share something, 3 points, leaving the audience with 3 things. Whether they only take 1, fantastic. But I think that's just a nice little summary to really share the value of this. I'm really proud of that one. That we filmed that with Jorge Capistani, very professionally done in Michigan, and it's quite a long course. So you get chunks of information, but each module has a very clear game plan of what I would invite you 15 points, 30 points, 40 points to win the game, what you've got to do with each module so that, when you finish it, you really will walk away with a great presentation.
Awesome. Wow. Okay. So now let's get into Empower Hour life coaching course. So, it's funny because I've done some life coaching, and part of my story is that I was in a car accident that left me with a pretty major concussion and a pretty bad neck injury. And so I had to kind of rebuild my life. And then I started reading a lot on mindset stuff, and it started to be very applicable to my tennis lessons. And one of my ladies said, wow, you're like a life coach on the tennis court. So I've actually done a little bit of life coaching. It's something I'd like to do more of. So you can just speak to me. I want coaching on life coaching, and then we'll just let other people listen in on that.
Yeah. So it was my life. Similarly, had quite a big change. It was in 2008 when I got out of tennis altogether. That's when my journey began, where I went and studied everything to do with emotional intelligence, life coaching, business coaching, etc. And it catapulted me, interestingly, back into tennis because I thought, wow, I had all this knowledge about how to hit and where to hit, but I didn't really understand anything about, or not anything, but I felt like I related to half the people that I was coaching, but not the other half. So what life coaching really gave me the resources and the skills to believe that almost every person in front of me has the answers within them. It's how do I use the art of asking great questions at the right time and providing great models and strategies for them to unlock what they know is that they have already within themselves. So that's how the Empower Hour came about, based on since 2008, what have I seen as the biggest struggles, nothing to do with sport, just in life in general. And how can we have tools, as in coaching tools, so people can coach themselves. So that's the concept behind it. And, the coolest thing about life coaching, of course, was Sir John Whitmore is one of the godfathers of the birth of life coaching, who he used the concept from the inner game of tennis, which we all know Timothy Galway, to create coaching, which is, understanding self one, self two, and how we talk to ourselves. And the GROW model was born and based a lot on the concepts used within that book, which of course is one of the most famous models we use in life coaching, which is what's the goal, what's your reality, what are your options, and what's your way forward. And so much of life coaching is about future-based thinking. Again, where do we want to go? Where are we heading? And you're accountable. Each a lot of the life coaching and mentoring that I do, the people, when I say, what do you love the most about life coaching? They say the accountability, right? Because when we get to the W in the GROW model, the way forward, they're committing. They are fully committing, and I'm doing a little check-in in terms of from 0 to 10, how enthusiastic are you about committing to what you said you're going to do? And if it's below a 7, they're not going to do it. So you haven't done your job as a...
Well, I don't know. Okay, no, I got a counterpoint for you, because I hate the word accountability. Mm-hmm. If every single time somebody wants me to sign up for accountability, I just give them a flat no. Absolutely not. I don't sign up for that. I'm too much of a rebel. I mean, it hits a really bad spot in me. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, but I have a funny story. So a friend of mine and I were both getting into life coaching, so we decided to practice on each other. So his issue was work-life balance. So we would talk for 45 minutes about his thing, and my thing was writing my first book. And a funny thing happened. Our meetings were Tuesday morning, and if I'd had not a very good week of writing up until Monday, I started to feel a tremendous amount of pressure to write something, to be able to tell him. I didn't want to go to that meeting and say I didn't write at all last week. So in my twisted way of thinking, it wasn't accountability. It was just, I wanted to make sure that I brought the value to that time. But being answerable to someone else, that's just not my cup of tea.
Yeah. So what I was saying, and I hope your listeners don't take this the wrong way. So what I was saying is, what some of the people that I've worked with have said they've liked about it is accountability. So it's not a sign up of accountability. So see, here's the thing about life coaching. At the end of the session, it encourages you to take action. And the clarity paradox is, taking action in any direction is better than not taking action at all. So what one of the best things about it is, it encourages people to take action in a direction that hopefully is towards their goals and dreams and objectives or intentions, whatever you want to call that. And yes, different things work for different people. So for example, if I was life coaching you and we got to the session and you hadn't done anything about your book, that's not about you feeling bad because you haven't done something. Life coaching then would be about asking questions within the week that could help then explore either a self-limiting belief, a potential block that we could break through, or it could be that you came up with some new content based on something that happened to you during the week. So there's subtleties within there. I don't think it's necessarily life coaching is accountability. I just was reflecting on what some of my clients had said that they really like about it, because it encourages them to take action. So I think I just wanted
Well,
that to be
that's a really valuable clarification. I found a lot of value right there, and that's awesome. So yeah, I mean,
great.
we're not. I don't see us disagreeing at all. It's just
No,
pieces of
neither
the
do I.
puzzle, right? Yeah, yeah,
Neither
yeah.
do I. And
So
I didn't want it to be unclear for people thinking that life coaching is that.
right.
It's what you want it to be. And I love the clarity paradox. So back to the Empower Hour, it's literally that. It's a very short course. You could take the whole thing in less than an hour. I think it's all the videos are about 58 minutes altogether. Let me just I got my little models here again. So there's the model for the Empower Hour, which you
Wow,
can see.
you like three circles and writing around them. That's
Yeah,
cute.
yeah, because
Yeah.
it's 9 modules. It's three core components,
Uh-huh.
and it's all my models generally around CPR. You know, you're saving your own life,
Okay.
not cardiopulmonary resuscitation. This one's confidence, purpose, and relationships. So it's how do we, the activities under purpose, for example, are the values exercise, self-awareness, and helping you with that clarity paradox. So direction, and the little matrix we actually use to help you with direction, especially around career. And then,
Matrix.
yeah. I
So,
threw that word in for you there. Yeah.
and I wanted to go back to something you said earlier because you used the word stuck or something alluding to that. So one of the things that would happen with me and Dave was if I felt like I had writer's block, I could call him and say, I'm stuck and I don't know why. And then we would have a little 5-minute conversation. And almost every time that helped me get unstuck. And he would do the same thing. So we had, midweek, if we were having, kind of a difficult moment, then we could analyze what was happening there. What was the reason for that? So, and I also liked what you said about it's what you want it to be. So coaching isn't about somebody telling somebody else what to do, right? It's about helping people get what they want.
Unlocking their potential. Exactly.
All right.
And there's lots of different models for that around life coaching. So, if somebody's stuck, we could do a laser coaching call on a model. There's different models that you can use, which I really love to help you as the coach, as the life coach, to ask great questions, which I think is really relevant for the tennis industry.
Yeah, amazing. All right. So it just feels like we're getting near the end here. So do you have that same feeling? So anyway, so let's bring it home here. What are 2, 3, maybe up to 5 takeaways? Because we did talk about some different things. So
we did. Yeah. If I had to summarize, I think based on the topic that really you said that we wanted to talk about, leader and community. Number 1 is follow before you lead.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 would be active listening. So, and when you do actively listen, really identify the problems. So that number 3, you can help them reframe based on, remember, the future. Yes, it's okay to be in the trenches. We are in the trenches, but let's think about where we want to go and then how we're going to get there. So that little roadmap. 4, now's a great time for PD. So right now I have the Empower Hour is out, how to run a Girl Power Camp. Presentation blueprint will be out on Friday. Next Monday I've got Tennis NLP with the PTR coming out, and my complete membership site also
okay,
will be ready by
PD.
Thursday.
What's
Professional
PD?
development.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah.
PD upskill.
You people and your acronyms.
Aussies. Yeah, I love them.
Yeah.
They're everywhere with the stuff that I do. It helps my brain remember what it is that what we're going to focus on. So that's tip 4, and then tip 5: stay healthy. Let's stay safe, and the more we can quarantine and isolate, hopefully the spread will shrink. And so let's all do the right thing. And sorry, if I can have a 6th tip, it would be take care of your team, take care of your staff. And if you're a leader in this industry, then you have to do what you need to do so that you are able to protect and make them feel safe. That's what great leaders do, is that sense of belonging, and especially safety right now I think that's really, really important as leaders. So,
Well, and I think I want to throw one thing in there for number 7, and that is take the lessons that you're learning at this time and move forward with them. I mean, I think we're right now more and more realizing what's really important, and keep those in the forefront of what you want moving forward. Don't forget them. Put something up somewhere. These are the lessons that I'm going to take moving forward past this crisis. So
yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, we've all each got a unique toolkit, a coaching toolkit that we wear, and when we pull out what tool when, and adding to that toolkit just makes you a richer coach. It's rich in wisdom, which obviously comes over time, and you can short circuit that time by gaining experience and wisdom from other coaches and mentors and leaders, and then take one or two things from what they say, hopefully one or two things from what we've spoke about today, add that to your coaching toolkit, and pay it forward exactly, and be grateful. So I'm grateful for this opportunity, Bill, to be on your show once again 7 years later, and I really appreciate you. So thank you.
I appreciate you, and that's a wrap, except that you're going to tell us how people can reach you before we go away.
Absolutely. So info@emmadoyle.com.au, and the online learning platform that really is coming to life this week is www.acecoach, everyone knows that's spelled coach.com.au, acecoach.com.au for Australia, AU.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, and great to see you again. Hopefully our paths will cross for real sometime soon. But have a great day, and thanks everybody for watching. Please like and subscribe.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, bye-bye.